anytime you want.
The Inner Voice Show is a dialogue between the host and the listeners about their relationships. This show is not an attempt to assess, diagnose, or treat any mental health or illness condition. Please consult your physician, psychiatrist, or psychotherapist for personal matters.
Inner Voice, a heartfelt chat with Dr. Foojan.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Inner Voice Show. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine and have Sean in studio. This is a show about what matters most in our mind, thoughts, feelings, actions, relationships, and our fulfillment in this beautiful journey of life. So today, I will actually bring for you an amazing show, which will be talking about the tip of the day. And then I will share with you talking about Sister Jenna, and then an amazing, amazing person who is with me, Ora Nadrich, which she talks about an amazing book that she has. So today we're going to be really good together and working on bringing the togetherness together. There's a tip of the day that I wanted to share with you. And the tip of the day is about people who are losing it when you set boundaries. I've noticed that when we talk to people who have lost their boundary, like I have set a boundary with them and they got upset. And then we're looking at, how come they get upset? I've really tried for many, many, many times to be loving, to be kind, to create all that is to make sure that they don't get upset, and then yet they get upset. So I started thinking, what is it that makes them upset? How come they get very, very upset every time I set a boundary? Or I've worked with clients, and how come they get upset? So there are a couple of things that I looked at in what does it make people upset about this? And what I've noticed is that when people get upset about having to pay a consequence when you actually set some consequence for them, they don't like it. When at the end, they have to actually pay the consequence, or you're going toward setting a boundary in one area and they have to and they have to pay the consequence in another area. If they had an expectation of you to be a particular way and suddenly you're not that way anymore, they get upset because they don't like for you to set a boundary because their expectation was different from you. So when you look at all the different ways that when you feel that you have to say no to someone and maybe they take it personal, they feel rejected by you. And at that moment, they stop and they don't like to be set in that boundary. I'm sure that has also happened for you when somebody said no to you, right? But does that mean we have to stop? Does that mean we need to let go? Does that mean that we're not going to set a boundary for people? No, we do need to, because the price that actually is there for not setting the boundary is much higher than you actually setting one. So what do? First, get very clear about what the boundary is. And after that, say it in the most loving and non-judgmental way for them to hear you, that it's not about them, it's about something you need to set up for your life. And then go ahead and let them know what the boundaries are and where they can, take a stand with you and where you're taking a stand with them. If they get upset, if for any reason they got upset at you, please be compassionate. Please understand that nobody likes to be put in a place that says no and don't do that. And with that compassion, let them be upset, and yet hold the ground for yourself and hold it very clearly. We're going to have talk about an amazing research about how every stimuli that comes in, everything that happens, it's new at every moment. And that's why we're talking about being present today, and with everybody that I talk to, in the moment, present, taking care of yourself, and knowing that the present moment is the most important one. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Join the conversation every Monday afternoon at 3 p.m. Pacific for Inner Voice Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan. Dr. Foojan is a radio and TV host, international speaker, psychotherapist, life coach, and the author of Life Reset, The Awareness Path to Create the Life You Want. She brings you the latest research and interviews with experts in the field of cognitive sciences. Anyone who loves to grow and create growth for humanity gets a voice on this call-in show. Inner Voice Heartfelt Chat with Dr. Foojan. Monday afternoons at 3 p.m. Pacific on Smart Talk KMET 1490 AM and on KMET1490am.com.
Here's the latest research. Rustling leaves, light rain at the window, a quietly ticking clock, muffled sounds just above the threshold of hearing. One moment we perceive them, the next we don't. Even if we or the sounds don't seem to change, many studies have shown that we never process an incoming stimulus, be it a sound, an image, or a touch, in the same way. This is true, even if the stimulus is exactly the same. This occurs because the impact of stimulus makes on the brain regions that process it depends on the momentary state of the networks those brain regions belong to. However, the factors that influence and underlie the constantly fluctuating momentarily state of the networks and whether these states are random or follow a rhythm was previously unknown. Now, scientists at the Max Planck Institute of Human Cognitive Brain Sciences in Germany, published in the Journal of Neuroscience, have discovered that the sensitivity of the network state at the time of stimulus related information reaches the cerebral cortex, influences how strongly the brain reacts to the stimulus. Depending on the network state, certain nerve cells in the so-called primary somatosensory cortex can be more or less excitable, which shapes the following stimulus processing in the brain. This means that the brain's response is modulated already at the entry of the cerebral cortex and depends on more than how a stimulus is evaluated at higher downstream levels. There's always a certain amount of activity between the neurons of a network, even if there are apparently no external influences on us. So, the system is never completely still or inactive. Rather, information is constantly arising from inside the body about our heartbeat, digestion, breathing, information about our position in space and temperature, and internally generated thoughts. In addition, increasingly neuronal activity occurs if neuronal networks are isolated from any input. This constantly affects the excitability of the various brain networks. The dynamics from internal processes are thus associated with the system's excitability and therefore also the stimulus response. So the brain does not seem to function like a computer where the same incoming information always means the same reaction. It turns out that fluctuations of cortical excitability do not occur completely at random, but rather show a certain temporal pattern. The excitability at one moment depends on previous network states and influences subsequent ones. Scientists refer to this as long-range temporal dependency or long-lasting autocorrelation, the fact that cortical excitability varies in this special way suggests that neuronal networks are poised at the so-called critical state, where there is a delicate balance between excitation and inhibition to the network. Earlier theoretical and empirical studies have indicated that such a criticality may be a fundamental principle underlying brain functionality and functioning where information transmission and capacity are maximized. This principle may govern the variability of sensory brain responses in the human brain. Two, presumably, this serves as an adaptive mechanism of the brain to cope with a variety of information that is constantly arriving from the environment. A single stimulus should neither excite the entire system at once nor fade away too quickly. However, It is still unknown whether greater excitability leads to a more salient experience. In other words, do the study participants perceive the intensity of the stimuli different depending on the instantaneous excitability? This is now being tested in the second study, but other processes can also play a role here. For example, attention. If you're directed to something else, a first strong brain response can still occur. However, higher brain processes downstream may then prevent it from being consciously received. So the way I look at it is here and now, the present moment is the most important fact, because even if you are drinking the same cup of coffee, every step, every sip could actually give you a different experience. Can you imagine if we really looked at that in relationship factors with human beings, in relation with our mates or anyone who is close to us, in how we think, oh, I know what they're going to say, and then come back to the present moment and know that whatever is happening is going to be completely new, because that's exactly how our system takes it in. So amazing research. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Sister Jenna.
Have you ever wished you could just wake up one day, reach across your nightstand, and hit the life reset button? Let's face it, the struggles and frustrations of everyday life leave millions of women and men around the globe yearning for a new way. And the new way is right here in Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want, by Dr. Foojan Zeine. You can get it now at foojan.com or amazon.com. Life Reset, the awareness integration path to create the life you want. You deserve it.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine, and I'm so excited to be with Sister Jenna, the founder of Brahma Kumaris, a meditation museum, and the host of American Meditating. I really wanted to start the series of meditation with you because obviously I'm not very good at meditation.
That's not true, and you know it.
I want you to teach me and teach everybody step by step in how we can be with ourselves, especially in this time.
Thank you, Foojan. It's so nice to be with you again. And let me correct the myth. Everyone can meditate, and meditation is very easy. The question is, what is your focus in holding a particular thought for a long period of time? So some of us tend to have a thought on a broken relationship, a heartbreak, lack of money, coronavirus. We're having a lot of meditation, maybe in areas that don't make us the most strongest. So in my path of meditation, it was a great relief when I knew I didn't have to empty my mind. And I think that's what a lot of people consider meditation to be very difficult. So on my path of the Brahma Kumaris, I want you to keep your thoughts in your mind, but select the healthy ones and the ones that are connected to your vision, your dreams, your goals, your virtues, your powers, your beauty. And that's when you'll feel like, oh, wow, this meditation is really awesome.
Okay. Can we do meditation tension in cleaning your body?
Okay. Ready?
Yes.
So wherever you're sitting, make sure it's quiet and you have the ability to not be disturbed, and settle in. Take a deep breath in and out. And the recommendation is to do that 3 or 4 times. So breathe in deeply. and out. And as you're breathing in, imagine you're putting cool, clean oxygen into your system. And breathing out anything that's toxic in the system. Breathe in again. Breathe out. And as you get comfortable with the sound of silence, emerge the idea, the thought, this body is a temple. And what I place in a temple is everything worthy and clean. Imagine in your temple, you sit as a living deity, a living god or goddess. Imagine you're like an angel in your temple. What food of thoughts would you feed the deity, the god or the goddess, or the angel? There would be thoughts that I am a pure, peaceful, and loving being. And that simple thought becomes a means of cleaning your inner temple, the body. Is also your temple. So first and foremost, the thoughts that you feed your inner temple takes care of what is inside. Images of worthiness. Allow your being to not only visualize this, but give yourself some time to experience it. The deity in you, the God in you, the angel in you is being fed. I am pure. I am peace. I am love. And I'm powerful. Allow that vibration to permeate through your body, starting from the soul. You'll feel your eyes getting brighter, your brain tingling, your smile becoming more natural, your neck being relaxed, your shoulders no longer taking the burden of the world on it. You sit straight up The vibrations of taking care of your inner temple transcends throughout your physical being, your heart, your kidney, stomach, intestines, your legs, your knees, your feet, your toes, your arms, your fingers. It is receiving the food of thought. I am pure. I am peace. I am love. And I'm powerful. Breathe in deeply again and exhale. And when you're ready, I invite you to return to the space. Feeling a deep sense of refreshment and a living reality. Open your eyes and take another deep breath. Inhale and exhale. That's one meditation that you can do when maybe you have 5 minutes or so in alone. In addition to that, it's a meditation you can do when you're walking and moving around. You can kind of remind yourself, if you're not intellectually busy, means your thinking process doesn't have to be invested in a project, in details, and trying to match a deadline, but you're just driving in the car to the gas station, or you're walking from the bedroom to the living room. You can remind yourself, I'm a pure, peaceful, loving deity inside this temple. And as you're walking, creating that feeling in you, eventually it develops the characteristics, the qualities, the personality, the natural vibration and aura that travels with a soul who is like a living deity or angel.
Om Shanti. Thank you so
Om
much.
Shanti.
Thank you for being with us, and look for more meditations with Dr. Sister Jenna. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Are you afraid? Are you getting panic attacks? Are you getting bored and can't stand it anymore at your home? Are you finding yourself in a bind with a relationship at home? Are you wondering what all of the fuss is? And are you determined to guard yourself against all others? Or worried about how am I going to pay my rent or mortgage? In respect to the coronavirus stress, I'm offering a sliding scale online psychotherapy for anyone in California and life coaching to anyone in the world who's suffering financially. Please connect with me at foojan.com, Foojan.com.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to the Inner Voice Show. I'm Dr. Foojan Zeine, and I'm so excited to have Ora Nadrich with me. She's the founder and president of the Institute for Transformational Thinking. She is the author of Live True, a mindfulness guide to authenticity. This is named in the 100 best mindfulness books of all time by Book Authority. She's a certified life coach and mindfulness teacher specializing in transformational thinking, self-discovery, and mentoring new coaches as they develop their careers. Welcome to the show, Ora.
Hello, Foojan. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, I really loved your book. And I love the content, and you do such a beautiful way of explaining in such a simple way where it really resonates with my heart. And I'm sure everyone who's listening or viewing us, when they get the book, it's really resonates with the way I think our inner truth is. But you've created simple ways of dealing. It's like it makes sense, not only to your head, to your brain, to your wisdom, and to your heart. And then at the end of each chapter, you also give us specific meditation that we could sit with and really experience. So I really appreciated your book, and it really resonated with me. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what got you to want to write this book first.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for your kind words around it. I like to think of it as simple wisdom. I think that what we sometimes think is so difficult to understand is rather simple, even though it's wise, and there's no need to dumb it down. That I wanted to write a book that could really resonate for a lot of people and give them tools and tips and skill sets that were applicable, So thank you. I really appreciate that you got it. Clearly you got it. So that's wonderful. I wrote Live True at actually a very difficult time in my life. And when I look back to that now, I'm kind of, amazed that I was even able to write it. It was right really after my sister passed away. Mm. And she was one of my oldest sisters, and she had actually struggled with mental illness for many, many years, and she passed away. And I was obviously in a deep grieving state, and it was very profound. And I found myself wanting to write this book. And for anybody who's lost a loved one, what comes to mind is the preciousness of time. And so that whole idea really came to me about that we don't have time to waste. You realize how precious life is, how valuable life is. And when I lost my sister, Esther, everything just really came to the foreground. And I wanted to write a book that really brought that attention to my readers to say, there's even a passage in the book, who are we to waste the moments of our life? We will never get these moments back. So she really was the inspiration for writing Live True. And I feel very blessed that I was able to take the legacy of her story and let that inspire me to write this book.
And it's so true for the times that we have right now, that at any point, any of us can be facing an illness, any of us can, face death. Any of us can be losing someone around the world. This isn't just even a local conversation. This is very much, you really get how much time, your present moment, things that you can do, and the relationships you have are precious, because it's true that any moment it can be taken away. You talk about living authentically, and I really, really love this word authentic. And I wanted to, for you to have it, you do that in your book, and for right now to talk about, what do you mean by authentic? The living our truth in the present moment, being connected, but there's something that you mean by the word authentic. Can you share that with us?
Yes, the definition of authentic or authenticity is genuine and real. So we know what the definition of that is, and how do we apply that in the sense of who we are, And I wanted to combine mindfulness and the authentic self, because I felt that was really a wonderful coupling, in that we can show up in a moment, and yes, we can be present, but who are we in that moment? We can be in a moment and be inauthentic. We can be in a moment and be something for someone else because we think we have to be that. That occupies a lot of people's minds when they are in a moment, that they're not being true to themselves. They give up or they sacrifice who they really are. So I bring the reader on this journey of learning how to be in the present moment, which is the practice of mindfulness, and also to better understand what it means to show up in a moment as who you really are. Do you know? Because why be in a moment if you're pretending? Why be in the moment and be afraid to show who we really are? That's another wasted moment, if you will. Do you know? So that's why I combine the two in the understanding of what it means to be authentic, which I think is very important for people to know, because a lot of people struggle with that concept. You know, a lot of people don't even give themselves the permission to find out, well, who am I? Who am I really? You know, I'm sometimes this for this person, and sometimes I'm that for that person, and I put on this persona or identity over here because I have to. Do you know, it can be very fragmented. And what I say in Live True, it's a lot harder to be who we're not than who we are. It takes a lot of work to do that.
I truly experience that with a lot of my clients, where fear of the sides of them which they're afraid of themselves, or they judge themselves, and then they think that others would judge it if it showed up. So there's so much energy being spent to hide those places and not let people find out, and the anxiety all the time about being found out in what's out there and behind them. And sometimes when we look at it in therapy, it's like, it's all good. Like, there's nothing wrong with all of these places. And even if you don't like that part, you're more than welcome to shift it. You know, you have the opportunity to shift some of the behaviors that show up from that part so that you don't have to hide it. And then therefore be free and clean and clear to just be authentic and be out there.
Right. It's liberating. It's freeing. You know, it really is. It's something that I think we really want to do. But again, like you said, the fear sometimes really gets in the way of, if I show this person, or even if I show a loved one, you know, what I'm really feeling or what I'm really thinking or who I really am, because we're constantly becoming, we're morphing into ourselves daily, that if I show this to a partner, a friend, a family member, they won't love me, they won't accept me. So we have these narratives that are going on in our minds, you know, a lot of the time.
You said this quote from you, from the book, but we mustn't forget that the moment is nothing more than time. That's it. And it lives on with or without us. We borrow from its infinite supply. That really resonates in a way. I think it brought me to the concept of the humility that the world is there, whether we're in it or we're not. And then, therefore, when we are in it, might as well utilize it to the best of our capacity in experiencing the experience that it brings, versus only in the experience of our own head somehow, you know, in our own bubble, versus we are here in this bigger entity, and all we're doing is living in our own bubble.
So true. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because, you know, we want to declare ourselves in a moment. I say, yes, life continues on with or without us, but we want to be present in a moment. We want to say, I'm here. I'm showing up in this moment of my life. I deserve to show up in this moment of my life as who I really am. You know, it's like living life, you know, in the way in which you see yourself living life. Do you know? And I say, show up for yourself, be present, really let people see, let the world see, let the universe see who you are. You owe it to yourself.
Yes. You also talk about future chasers, right? And you are the ones that are anticipate the future often, usually impatient with the present, feel anxious about the future, get bored quickly, think of the future and will be better than you think the future will be better. And then you also talked about the past dwellers. So the people who live up front, or the ones that are constantly in the past, the ones that are mostly in the past. You long for what it was once, wishing you could change your past, and hold on to resentments of what happened and keep trying to change the past in your mind. And then you also talk about present experiencers who are happiest in the moment and enjoying and showing up for the moment and allowing yourself to fully experience the moment. Can you share a bit about these three aspects that you talk in your book?
Absolutely. You know, and it's interesting because all of us are either one or the other, or maybe a little bit of both, or maybe all three, but usually one or the other is dominating our life in some way. You know, research has shown that our mind wanders almost 50% of the time. We're either worrying about the future and what might or could happen, or we're lamenting the past and wishing it had been different. Well, we can't go back into the past. It's gone. It's over. And why be overly concerned about a moment that isn't even here yet? And yet we have the hardest time being present is in the present moment. And, you know, you see people who are really comfortable in their skin because they're just in the moment, really taking what I said, that great bite out of life. And it's admirable. You know, they're not crawling out of their skin. They're not running as fast as they can. They're not, you know, overtaken by such nervous energy that they can't be still. And, you know, I think those are really important things to ask ourselves. You know, are we somebody who tends to be a future chaser, who's always thinking about the what ifs, or, you know, this might happen and that might happen, or are we somebody who really kind of is always going back to the past and going, oh, if only I hadn't done this, and what if that had happened, and, you know, maybe my life would be different today. Try not to let yourself wander to what I say, two time frames that don't really exist, which is fascinating. And the most real time is the moment that we're in right now. So if you can have a mindful awareness of whether you are a future chaser or you're a past dweller, what that's going to do is going to help you catch it in the moment, that you start to wander out of a moment, either in the future or the past, and bring yourself back to the moment of the present. Go, hey, you know what? I need to be present in this moment. This moment is enough for me, you know, and let me really enjoy this moment. Let me be present in this moment. Let me be grateful for this moment. So it's good to identify what our tendencies are. And by identifying it, it can help us be more present.
And I really think it's a practice. I think that most people are either live in the past or the future, although the only place you could really create any type of action is the present moment. But I have a lot of people who say, I can't, like it takes me 1 or 2 seconds, and then I find myself jumping either up to two grounds. Either I go to the past or the future, and then I work so hard to bring myself right to the present, and it takes 1 or 2 minutes, and whoops. Well, yeah, but yes.
It kind of works that way. But you know, what you said is so true. It takes practice. You know, these are not quick fixes. I mean, if you're somebody who really wants to get the most out of life and you really want to become more present, you know, it's going to take a little bit of work here. Do you know, it's going to be doing something like even being aware of, like, oh, there I go. My mind is wandering. My mind wants to pull me out of the moment. Oh, there I go, worrying about what might happen, or I'm rearranging the past, thinking that maybe if I rearrange it in my mind, somehow I can relive it. You know, it's so important to catch ourselves. It's so important to commit to these practices. I say, do it one step at a time. Do it a little bit each day. You know, mindfulness is the practice of being present. That's something that you can commit to daily, and you start to get these benefits from it, the rewards from it. So the people that say, oh, you know, I call it in my first book, the yeah buts. Yeah, but, you know, I try and it doesn't work. Or, yeah, but, you know, my mind is just overly active. You really can do this. Everybody can do this if they apply it and they really commit to it. Do you know?
Absolutely. You also talk about your book takes on different chapters from there, and you talk about wholeness, coexistence, consciousness, self, perception, thoughts, desires, emotions, knowledge, behavior, love, acceptance, truth, honesty, authenticity, compassion, purpose, intention, service, reality, destiny, self-realization, and oneness. I wanted to ask you a little bit about the concept of wholeness. Can you share a little bit about what you mean about this wholeness? What is the experience of wholeness when so many of us get fragmented and stay fragmented? And part of what we do in therapy is to come back and, you know, or coaching or working with people is to bring them to wholeness.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Experience of wholeness.
Yes, exactly. You know, I bring up wholeness in a way that which is obviously fragmented or broken is that which is not whole. And I think that we all have aspects of ourselves that we're trying to reunite, so that we can feel more whole. We can feel more, at one, at peace with ourselves. And when we're at one and at peace with ourselves, we can be more at one with others. We can be more at one with our environment, and ultimately at one with everything. I think that's the goal for a more self-realized person, So I think that we come into the world probably as these beautiful, unique, special, whole spirits. I think each and every one of us is a unique miracle that comes into this world. And then we go on the life journey and life happens. We have a series of events that can be difficult and challenging and even traumatic. And during those experiences is when we can have parts of ourselves become fragmented, or parts of ourselves that feel broken. Many of us have experienced, heartbreak. That's a form of feeling broken within. So we want to be able to work towards the unification of self. We want to work towards not feeling that we're fragmented, so that we can live our lives really at peace with ourselves. And it takes work. And that's really what I take the reader on the journey on how to live true. Because living true means that you are living true to who you really are. And who we really are, I feel at the core, is whole. We just have created so many stories and narratives around who we think we are that have moved us so far away from the true core essence of who we are, which I think is whole.
A little bit about the distinct difference that of the experience of being whole versus oneness. As I'm reading, and my experience of the whole appears to be more here as I'm being whole here, and then the oneness is the experience that me and the universe then appears to be whole. Is that what I understand from your book?
Yeah, yes. Without going into sort of, concepts that could sound unattainable to people, or maybe overly existential, or maybe even esoteric, there is the idea of oneness, being at one with, as I said, with oneself and one with the universe. For someone who says, or thinks, what does that look like? Or I don't know what that feels like. I think for people maybe that meditate, I'm a meditation teacher, where you have experienced the feeling of dropping into the true essence of your heart and soul, where you feel this deep feeling of peace and acceptance, and by the way, that can come to people at the most unexpected times in their lives. It can come at a time that they didn't anticipate, or it can come at a time of loss, or great heartbreak, or, different transitions that people go through where they have a whole renewed appreciation and gratitude for life. I believe that we're on a journey to obtain that. I think that we want to live our lives with more acceptance. We want to live our lives with more inner peace. But in order to do that, we have to be willing to go within. We have to be willing to go within the depths of who we are, so that we can connect to what I feel is the divine source energy of the universe. You can call that whatever you want, be it God, unity consciousness, oneness, whatever that personally means to you. And I think a lot of people have experienced what feels very sacred, or very holy, or very divine, whether you're a religious person or you're a spiritual person. We don't want to just wait till we're in a religious or spiritual context to feel those moments of wholeness or oneness, if you will. There are a lot of ways in which we can invite that feeling in. And one of the things to do is to not live fragmented, or not live inauthentic to who we truly are.
And it seems more like it brings up a lot more of peace of mind when we go into the wholeness and then we go into the oneness. One of the highest levels of anxiety and depression is something that people are experiencing right now. And the rate of depression and anxiety are going sky high.
Right.
So it seems like your book and what you are offering as a gift at this point is something that almost everybody needs to be able to calm down, to bring that, those type of emotions from that, it gets created from a lot of fear, to calm that fear down. We don't have a lot of tools to calm that fear down. Yes, we could do it cognitively, and then we get bombarded again with a lot of data from out there that produces our fear again. So sometimes when you look at reality, it's harder for you to keep shifting your thought process and perceptions into calming down. Sometimes we do need to look at a way of becoming a whole and one in order to just calm. It's like the byproduct of that is calming the internal process, and becoming one. It creates a little bit of a safety where we feel safe and secure in the space that we are with the world and whatever is happening.
Right. That's such a good point. During this time, it's been very interesting, and I know very challenging. It's an unprecedented time. Emotions are running high. People are feeling anxiety, fear, depression, and all sorts of things that are very disconcerting and disorienting. But it's also a time to go within, as I talk about, and find what I said is almost like, it's really interesting that at a time when we can't go to temples, we can't go to churches, we can't go to mosques, especially in the beginning at the onset of the pandemic, people were at a loss as to where do I go to pray? Where do I go to worship? Where do I go and experience that holy place and connected to the divine? And I even did a meditation on one of my social media in the beginning, which was a meditation guiding to go to the inner temple within. Now I know that might be unknown to a lot of people, but I say we all have that holy place within us, and sit quietly there. You can talk to yourself, you can talk to God, you can talk to whatever that divine essence or entity is for you. And that is needed now more than ever because people are so stressed out. So I really encourage people to try to find time in their day to sit somewhere quietly. If you're not a meditator, just find 10 minutes in your day, find a place where you live, where you can be, if you can, alone. I know that's hard for people that are living with people, but it doesn't have to be anywhere other than just find a quiet room for yourself to sit quietly. If you can walk outside, you can do something like mindfulness and walking. That is a beautiful thing to do, to take a walk where you can let yourself, we're able to do that now, by the way. We can at least go out and take walks, look around you. It's not a time to be on your phone. It's not a time to be distracted. It's a time to connect, talking about the oneness and the wholeness, to go outside. And that's another thing that I talk about in the book called life gazing. I really encourage people, look at a sunrise, look at a sunset. I'm looking out at my window right now. Look at birds flying across the sky. We have a time not to be hurried and not to be distracted. Take advantage of this time, And by the way, if you're someone who's feeling sometimes those really oppressive feelings and the concerns and worries, move the energy, go take that walk. Take off your shoes, go walk on the grass, feel the earth under your feet, take a bath, light candles, put on some, ambient music, put some aromatherapy oils in your bathtub. There's a lot of things we can do during this time to ameliorate some of the stresses that we're feeling.
And bringing our senses to activity where it brings us back to our body in a sense, and attempting to soothe our body and calm it down. You were talking about the birds chirping. It was interesting. Yesterday we were taking a walk with my husband in the morning, and then suddenly this one bird, which was different than all the crows that were around and having a particular sound. And then this one bird, I think it was doing a mating call and a dance. And it was the most beautiful ritual that this bird was doing with all of these different types of songs. And then would go on the highest roof and then would sing and would fly just a little bit just to show off who I am, and then come back and sit down and sing again. And we just stood there mesmerized by this ritual that was happening, a beautiful ritual. And it just brought this smile and a way of, wow, look look at this beauty that is all around us, and then just to be able to connect to that. So yes, absolutely, in the
Great
midst of all
story.
of it, you can find beauty.
I love that story. That's a beautiful story. And, how much of that would we be noticing if we weren't in this moment that is, again, unprecedented in our lives, where we have more time not to rush and to hurry and to be caught up in the doing. We have more time to be in the being, So you talk about taking that beautiful walk where you're noticing something that maybe you wouldn't have noticed otherwise. I mean, I feel like I'm noticing so much more. You talk about our senses. Our senses are so much more heightened, And because we've been at stay-at-home isolation for so long and are only now going back out into the world, I mean, it's interesting to see nature. I thought the birds are having a field day because we're in our homes, and it's all these stories about these animals, these wild animals that are crossing roads because people aren't on the roads, in different countries. It's really interesting. It's time to really notice more about what's around us, You
also talked about consciousness in your book. Can you share a little bit about your thoughts on that?
Well, consciousness, I know that's hard to really pin down. What is consciousness? That is something that I think everything from poets to philosophers to mystics to theologians, theosophists have tried to define what is consciousness. To me, consciousness is the awareness of everything. It's having the awareness of who we are, what life is, who are other people, and having a higher, more clear awareness of human existence, if you will. So I talk about that in Live True. I talk about what the practice of mindfulness does for us. Mindfulness makes us present in the moment with more awareness. And by heightening our awareness, we're raising our consciousness, because we're becoming more aware human beings, which makes us more conscious human beings. So that to me is my definition of what consciousness is to me.
I also know that you have you founded an institute for transformational thinking, and you do train, let's say, coach, teach other coaches who do the same after transformational thinking. Can you say a little bit about your methodology that you are teaching, the transformational thinking?
Sure. I was a life coach for over 10 years, and it was a time when that niche of coaching was relatively new. I mean, I became certified, and it was even hard to find that because there just weren't hardly any life coaches out there. And I was a life coach for 10 years. And during the time of my life coaching, I wrote my first book, Says Who, which is a cognitive questioning method for transforming negative and fear-based thoughts. And it really turned my whole coaching, if you will, around. Suddenly I was using the Says Who method when coaching my clients, and saw a tremendous change in how I could help them, so that they could understand their own thoughts better, and to really get to know how our negative and fear-based thoughts really sabotage our lives in so many ways. So based on the Says Who method that I wrote, I also realized that, and I had an aha moment for myself, that I wasn't really a life coach. I mean, even though that's what I called myself, I said, well, what is a life coach really? Well, a life coach is somebody who coaches you perhaps in all areas of your life. But what I came to know is that I was coaching people and their thoughts, and the limited thinking that really obstructs us getting on with our life in a way that is most fulfilling. So I created the Thought Coach Certification Training Program, which is based on my Says Who method. And it's an online program. I have almost 100 graduates all over the world. And it's a pretty extraordinary program in that whether you want to put a shingle out and become a thought coach or not, you really understand the whole essence, the whole concept, if you will, of transformational thinking. And in as much as I have people that are therapists that take it and people that are in the wellness field, but I also have people that take it because they really want to understand their thinking mind better. So it is online. It is available now, and I'm excited because I've just done a new iteration of it. In that some of my graduates who specialize in areas, I have two of my graduates. One specializes in addiction, and one specializes in suicide prevention. That I'm now having them become facilitators to do the program with anybody who wants it specialized in those areas. So it's really growing exponentially. I'm very excited about that.
Beautiful. Is there anything we haven't talked about that you really, really want people to know?
My goodness, we've covered quite a lot. I really would just love people to maybe get familiar with the whole concept of mindfulness and to really get to understand it better. I think with the times that we're in right now, and you brought that up, I think these skill sets and these tools and these modalities are really beneficial for people that are struggling right now. So, people can really learn that, I think, in Live True by reading it and coming to understand how to be more present with more calm awareness and a level of equanimity that I think is much needed during this challenging time.
And where can they find you?
The best place is to go to my website, oranadrich.com. I pretty much have everything on it that either I'm doing or articles or interviews like yours and mine will be on it. And that's the best place for them to find me.
Beautiful. So everyone, Ora Nadrich, and please go get Live True, a mindful guide to authenticity. Thank you so much, Ora, for being on my show. It was a pleasure to have you, and I loved your book.
Thank you so much for having me.
And for all of you who are out there, create an amazing world for yourself and everyone around you. And until next week, bye-bye.